I had just moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn after landing my first real job. It was small, a little run down, but I liked the charm. Brick walls, creaky floorboards, and a fire escape outside my bedroom window that led to a narrow alley between buildings. At first, the fire escape felt like a perk. I could sit out there with coffee in the mornings or watch the rain at night. It felt very New York in a romantic kind of way, but that feeling didn't last. The first strange thing happened about 2 weeks in. I was brushing my teeth late one night when I thought I saw movement through the bedroom window. It was subtle, like someone ducking out of sight. I turned off the light to get a better view through the glass, but there was nothing. I figured it was a raccoon or maybe just my reflection. But the next night, it happened again. This time, I caught a glimpse of a person, a man. He was standing perfectly still on the fire escape right outside my window, just standing there. I froze. When I blinked, he was gone. I didn't hear footsteps or the sound of metal. He had just vanished. I tried to laugh it off, told myself I was overtired, told myself the city plays tricks on people. But deep down, I didn't believe that. I started keeping the blinds drawn. I stopped going out onto the fire escape. But that didn't stop him. Every few nights, I would wake up and feel a presence in the room. Not noise, not light, just this deep, heavy feeling of being watched. Sometimes, I'd find the blinds pushed slightly to the side in the morning, even though I hadn't touched them. One night, I had enough. I stayed up with all the lights off, phone in hand, waiting. Around 2:30 a.m., I saw him. He stepped slowly onto the fire escape from above, like he'd been on the roof the whole time. He didn't look in. He just stood there, inches from the glass, unmoving. I lifted my phone to take a picture, but as soon as I did, he turned toward me. He didn't have a face, just smooth, pale skin stretched over where features should have been. I dropped the phone. When I looked again, he was gone. I couldn't sleep after that. The next day, I went straight to my building manager and told her everything. She didn't seem surprised. "You're not the first tenant to see him," she said. "What are you talking about?" I asked. She hesitated. "That apartment's been turned over 4 times in the last year. Every single one left early. Said someone was on the fire escape. We had security check it. No signs of break-ins, no footprints, nothing." I moved out 2 days later. Now I live on the 6th floor of a modern building with no fire escapes, no alleys, no old windows. But sometimes, at night, I still wake up with that same feeling. And when I look toward the window, I swear I see the blinds shift, just slightly, like someone's watching from the outside, waiting to be seen. And every time, I check the photo I managed to take that night, the one I dropped the phone while taking. It's completely black, except for the faint outline of a hand pressed against the glass. When I was 15, my mom and I moved into a small apartment complex in a quiet suburb of northern Washington. The place was nothing fancy, 2-story buildings with thin walls, dated carpets, and flickering hallway lights. But it was what we could afford. We ended up in apartment number 9, on the ground floor, right at the end of the hall. From the beginning, there was something off about that unit. It was cold, even in summer. The mirrors inside seemed strange, not distorted, but slow, like the reflections lagged by just a fraction of a second. You'd move your hand, and your reflection would follow. Barely late enough to notice, but enough to make your skin crawl once you did. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but then, one night, I saw it. I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom, the overhead light buzzing and dim. I looked up, and in the mirror behind me, someone was standing in the hallway. A tall, thin figure, blurry like fogged glass. My heart froze. I spun around, but the hallway was empty. When I looked back, the reflection was gone. I convinced myself it was just a trick of the light, until it started happening again. Every few nights, I'd catch movement in the mirror. Sometimes it was the hallway, sometimes it was behind me in the kitchen, or reflected from the glass of the TV screen. Always the same figure, tall, motionless, watching. One night, I decided to test it. I stood in the bathroom with the lights off and lit a candle. I stared at the mirror for a long time. Nothing happened, but just as I was about to turn away, I saw it again, closer this time, right behind me. I spun around, empty. When I turned back, The candle flickered violently and then went out. The smell of burnt wax and something else, something metallic, filled the air. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, my mom mentioned something odd. She said she found her hairbrush in the freezer. My headphones were in the oven. Things started moving around the apartment. Small things at first, then bigger things. I came home from school one day to find every single mirror covered with blankets and taped at the corners. My mom was pale and quiet. When I asked what happened, she just said, "I don't want to talk about it." That night, I peeked under the sheet covering the bathroom mirror. It was pitch dark, but I saw something that made my blood run cold. There were handprints on the other side of the glass, not on the surface, inside, pressed up against it, fingers long and thin and bent at unnatural angles. I screamed. My mom burst in, saw what I was looking at, and finally broke down. She told me that the last tenant in the apartment, a teenage boy, had died in that bathroom. He'd been found weeks later, curled up in the bathtub, all the mirrors in the apartment shattered from the inside. Management told her it was a drug thing, but she said she didn't believe that anymore. We started sleeping in the living room, with all the lights on. The mirrors stayed covered, but one night I woke up and saw the hallway mirror uncovered. The sheet was on the floor, and written in the glass, in the condensation, were 3 words: "You looked first." The next day, we moved in with my aunt. A week later, apartment number 9 was sealed off with crime scene tape. I never found out exactly what happened, but I did hear someone else had moved in. They didn't last a week either. And sometimes, in my aunt's house, when I pass by the mirror in the hallway, I see that flicker again. That half-second delay. That figure still watching. My cousin Adrian had just bought a long-abandoned farmhouse out in rural Vermont, something cheap he could fix up and flip. He invited me, his sister Lena, and his old friend Chris to spend a weekend helping him get started. The house was a wreck. Peeling wallpaper, broken windows, the smell of dust and mildew in every room. But it had charm too. Thick wooden beams, antique hardware, and a massive stone fireplace in the living room. The place sat at the end of a dirt road, no neighbors for miles. We brought food, tools, sleeping bags, and a Bluetooth speaker for music since there was no internet or cell reception. The idea was to clean, strip the floors, and enjoy a few nights off-grid with beer and stories. The first day was uneventful. We cleaned out the debris in the main hallway and took down some broken shelves. That night, we drank on the porch, watching the fog creep in from the woods. It felt peaceful, quiet, too quiet. The weirdness started the second night. While we were working in one of the upstairs bedrooms, Chris found something wedged behind the old dresser, a stack of yellowed Polaroid photos. They were all blurry, but they showed the same corner of the house again and again, the same room, same wallpaper, always empty except one photo. That one had a person, a thin figure standing with their back to the camera, almost out of frame. The face wasn't visible, just a pale neck and long tangled hair. We tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was a prank left by the previous owner. But Adrian got weirdly quiet. He told us later that the room in the photos was the locked room in the attic, the only one we hadn't been able to open. The doorknob was rusted shut. That night, something woke me up. It was a sound, whispering. Not words, just the texture of a voice coming from inside the walls. I thought maybe Lena or Chris was awake and playing a prank, but the whispering didn't stop. It moved, like it was crawling along the interior of the house, passing behind the wooden panels, circling the room. The next morning, I asked everyone if they heard it too. No one admitted to anything, but Lena looked pale and wouldn't meet my eyes. Adrian decided to break the lock on the attic room that afternoon. The door creaked open slowly, the hinges shrieking like something alive. The room was empty, mostly, just an old rocking chair and a stained mattress. But the walls, they were covered in carvings, not drawings, but scratch marks. Thousands of them, like fingernails dragged violently into the wood. There were words, too, scratched repeatedly over and over. I never left. Adrian stared for a long time before finally backing out and shutting the door. That night was the worst. The power we had rigged from the generator died around midnight. The house went completely black. I tried to use my flashlight, but it started flickering. We all gathered in the living room, trying to stay calm, but Lena kept glancing upstairs like she could hear something. Then we heard it too, slow footsteps above us. Measured, deliberate, back and forth, like someone pacing the attic. Adrian grabbed a hammer. Chris had a crowbar. We went up together, whispering each other's names just to stay grounded. The attic door was still closed, still locked. But the pacing continued, not on the floorboards anymore, but in the walls. Something was inside the structure of the house. We all backed down slowly, not saying a word. No one slept. At first light, we packed everything and left. Adrian returned the next week alone to finish clearing it out, but I haven't seen him since. He stopped replying to texts, deleted all his social media, and his number's been disconnected. I called the town clerk's office. The property was sold again a month later, cash sale, no name listed. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I'll look at that one photo again, the blurry one with the figure in the corner. I'm not sure if I imagined it, but I think that figure is turning a little more toward the camera each time I look.